Have you ever felt like you're standing still while the rest of the world is running past you? You look at your phone and you see your friends getting promoted, buying houses, or traveling the world, while you're in the same place you were a year ago. It's a quiet, heavy kind of pain, isn't it? The feeling that you've been left behind. Today, I want to tell you the story of Silas. He was a man who watched his two best friends chase the sun while he stayed in the shadows of his small village. Everyone called him a failure. They called him the man who lacked heart. But Silas was playing a different game, a game that most people don't understand until it's far too late. In a quiet village tucked between a deep forest and a great mountain, three friends grew up together: Julian, Marcus, and Silas. They were inseparable. As boys, they sat on the old stone bridge and made a pact. They promised that they would all become great men. When they turned 20, the day of departure arrived. Julian, full of fire, decided to go to the capital city to become a powerful politician. He wanted his name on the lips of every citizen. Marcus, clever and ambitious, decided to join the great merchant fleet. He wanted his pockets filled with gold from distant lands. Then there was Silas. When his friends asked him where he was going, Silas looked at the old, neglected apple orchard on the edge of the village. He looked at the elderly neighbors who struggled to carry their water. He looked at the quiet library that was falling into ruin. "I think I'll stay here," Silas said softly. Julian laughed and patted his shoulder. "Silas, there is nothing here but dust and memories. Don't you want to be someone? Don't you want to succeed?" Silas smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I want to be useful, and I think I'm needed here." Julian and Marcus left in a cloud of dust, riding high on horses. Silas stayed. The first 5 years were the hardest. Every few months, a messenger would arrive in the village with letters. Julian's letters were written on expensive parchment. He was now an advisor to the king. He lived in a palace with marble floors. He attended balls and wore silk. Marcus's letters came with small bags of exotic spices and coins. He owned 3 ships now. He had seen the ivory towers of the east and the spice markets of the west. He was one of the wealthiest men in the country. And Silas? Silas was still in the village. His hands were covered in dirt and calluses. He spent his days replanting the dying orchard, tree by tree. He spent his evenings fixing the leaky roofs of the widows and teaching the village children how to read in the old library. The villagers whispered about him. "Look at Silas," they would say while he swept the market square. "He had the same chance as the others, but he's just a servant, a man who stayed behind because he was afraid of the world." Silas heard the whispers. He felt the sting of them. On many nights, he would sit on that same stone bridge, looking at the road leading out of the village. He would ask himself, "Did I throw my life away? Am I just a coward? Am I a failure because I didn't leave?" It is so hard to feel successful when your environment never changes. It is so hard to feel like you are growing when you are surrounded by the same walls every single day. Silas felt the weight of his unsuccessful life every time he looked at his tattered boots. 15 years passed. One autumn afternoon, 2 carriages rolled into the village. They were grand, but they looked weary. Out stepped Julian and Marcus. They were now in their late 30s, but they looked much older. Julian's face was lined with stress. His eyes were darting around, suspicious and tired. He had reached the top, but he had spent 15 years fighting off enemies and living in fear of being betrayed. He had power, but he had no peace. Marcus walked with a limp. His face was pale. He had all the gold he ever wanted, but his health was broken from years of storms at sea and the greed that comes with never having enough. He had wealth, but he had no home. They found Silas in the orchard. The trees were heavy with the biggest, reddest apples anyone had ever seen. The air was sweet. Children were playing between the rows of trees, and a group of young men were learning from Silas how to graft branches. When Julian and Marcus saw Silas, they stopped. Silas looked younger. His skin was tanned by the sun, his frame was strong, and his eyes, most of all, his eyes were clear and full of light. "Silas," Julian whispered, "we came back because we had nowhere else to go. The city is a cage. The people there only love what I can do for them. I am surrounded by thousands, but I am utterly alone." Marcus sat on a wooden crate, sighing. "The gold doesn't taste like anything, Silas. I spent my life gathering things, but I realized I have no roots. I have nothing that grows." They looked around the village. They saw the library Silas had saved, now filled with books and students. They saw the elders sitting in the sun, cared for and happy. They saw an entire community that thrived because one man chose to stay behind and build a foundation while everyone else was trying to build a tower. In that moment, the definition of success changed for everyone in that village. Julian and Marcus realized that they hadn't run toward success. They had been running away from themselves. They had mistaken movement for progress, but Silas had stayed behind to create something that would outlive him. Friends, listen to me closely. We live in a culture that tells us we have to get out to get ahead. We are told that if we aren't constantly moving, changing, and climbing, we are failing. We are taught to be jealous of the friends who seem to be winning the race. But life is not a race. It is a garden. Some people are called to be the wind, to travel, to explore, to see the world, and that is okay. But some people are called to be the soil. They are the ones who stay. They are the ones who build the families, the communities, and the foundations that keep the world from falling apart. If you are in a season where it feels like you are behind, I want you to ask yourself, am I standing still or am I building roots? Don't judge your life by someone else's highlight reel. Julian had the palace, but Silas had the peace. Marcus had the gold, but Silas had the fruit. Success isn't always about how far you go. Sometimes the greatest success is found in how much you can grow exactly where you are. It's about the lives you touch, the trees you plant, and the peace you find in your own heart. You are not failing just because you aren't moving at their speed. Your timeline is yours alone. Trust it. Build your foundation. Grow your roots. Because one day, the people who ran the fastest might just come back to find shade under the trees you were brave enough to stay behind and plant. Stay strong. Your growth is happening, even if the world can't see it yet.